Welcome back to another installment from Bring Me the Nightmare. Ready to feel your heart race? In this video, we're diving into 3 creepy true horror stories that will chill you to the bone. From eerie late-night encounters to sinister strangers lurking in the shadows, these terrifying tales are anything but fiction. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's get into the fear if you dare. Story 1, The Midnight Knocker. She was watching me through the window.
One weekend, I was house-sitting for my grandma while she traveled to Florida with her church friends. I slept in the guest bedroom next to her room, which always contained 2 twin beds that my brother and I used during sleepovers. I chose the bed by the window, but before settling in, I made sure all the doors were locked. It was early when I got into bed, and I didn't fall asleep right away. There wasn't much to do at my grandma's house, so I spent a couple of hours on my phone watching videos and texting friends. Suddenly, I thought I heard a woman's voice outside, repeatedly saying, "Hello." Curious and slightly uneasy, I left the bedroom and crept toward the front door, trying to listen closely. The voice was definitely a woman's, greeting me every 10 seconds. As I approached the front door, I realized it was coming from there. My grandma's door lacked a peephole, but the dining room windows provided a clear view of the front porch. I tiptoed over to the window to see who was outside, peeking between the plastic blinds. I was startled to see a woman on the stoop staring directly at me, as if she knew I would look. With a creepy smile, she once again said, "Hello." This woman appeared to be in her late 50s or early 60s, but she didn't look like a sweet, harmless old lady. Something about her face gave me the creeps. I stepped away from the window, wondering if she was one of my grandma's friends. But it was midnight. Why would anyone come to the door at that hour without knocking or ringing the bell? Why was she just standing there, repeating, "Hello"? I felt a wave of unease wash over me and retreated to the guest bedroom, shutting the door behind me. With the door closed, I could no longer hear her voice, perhaps because she had left. I texted my sisters and friends about the bizarre encounter, but as time passed in silence, I began to calm down. My sisters suggested I call my grandma, but there was no way she would be awake, and she rarely checked her phone anyway. Just then, the silence was shattered by loud banging on the window. It wasn't a gentle knock, it was a forceful bang. My heart raced as I felt a surge of adrenaline. Moments later, I heard the familiar voice say, "Hello," again. Fueled by panic, I yanked the blinds up and found myself face to face with the terrifying woman, only a thin layer of glass separating us. I yelled, "I'm calling the cops," and quickly pulled the blinds down before running into the living room. I scanned the house and then dashed upstairs, locking myself in the guest bedroom. I hesitated to call the police, wanting to wait it out instead. I crawled into bed, wrapping myself in the covers. A couple of hours later, still wide awake, I finally ventured back downstairs to check outside. To my relief, the creepy old lady had vanished. The next morning, I called my grandma to tell her what had happened. She immediately panicked and began shouting into the phone. A few days prior, she had noticed a woman around 10 years younger than her, watching her at the grocery store, smiling for no apparent reason. I tried to calm her down, unsure if the 2 incidents were connected, but her distress gave me chills. My grandma is 75 and has lost some of her sharpness, so I often take her stories with a grain of salt, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it might have been the same woman.
Story 2, Dating App Nightmare. I barely escaped a killer's trap.
My name is Nicholas, and I'm currently a freshman at Syracuse University, which is not located in the safest area. Following a recent breakup, I decided to re-enter the online dating scene. While using the app Hinge, I connected with a girl named Stephanie, who also attended Syracuse. We both enjoyed reading, going to the movies, and shared a similar sense of humor. I suggested a movie date, and she happily agreed, instructing me to meet her at a specific location near campus so she could pick me up. At 9 p.m., I waited at the designated corner of a typical neighborhood block. Stephanie asked me to share my location, which I did. A few minutes later, a car turned onto the street and approached me. However, when it stopped, the driver was an older man, not Stephanie. He asked why I was alone, which struck me as odd. I replied that I was waiting for someone, to which he asked if I was waiting for Stephanie. When I confirmed, he claimed to be her father and urged me to hop in for a ride to her. I scrutinized him closely. He looked too old to be her father. I wasn't naive about sketchy situations, so I firmly replied, "Why didn't you say you'd be picking me up?" He explained that he didn't trust a stranger meeting his daughter and wanted to meet me first. I studied him for a moment, then turned and walked away. Hey, he called out, sounding surprised by my sudden departure. I had heard too many kidnapping stories to ignore my instincts. I glanced back to ensure he wasn't following, feeling relieved when he drove straight ahead and turned left out of sight. As I continued toward campus, I reached the corner just as I noticed what looked like the same car parked on the side of the road with its lights off. I casually glanced into the tinted windows but couldn't see inside. I received a text from Stephanie asking why I hadn't gotten into the car with her dad. Ignoring her, I kept walking, frequently looking back to see if the car moved. When I reached an intersection, I turned right and began to run in the direction of campus. To my surprise, I wasn't followed. Out of breath, I made it back to campus and headed toward my dorm. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was behind me. I dismissed it as paranoia until I heard the unmistakable sound of glass being kicked by a shoe. I knew I was being followed. I ducked behind a van to listen for footsteps. They were a few cars away, and then it hit me. I had never stopped sharing my location with Stephanie, or rather that man. I spotted him approaching from between two cars, yelling something I couldn't quite make out, but it sounded like, "Come back, and I'll take you to her." He appeared to be in his 60s, and I was confident I could outrun him. I sprinted away, easily losing him, and made it back to my dorm room. My roommate was absent, leaving me alone with my thoughts. As I lay in bed, I received another shocking text from that man. It read, "You're a little piece of fucking shit. You're lucky you got away. I would have strangled your ugly ass." I took a screenshot of the message. I replied, "Thanks for the threat. It's going straight to the police," then blocked his number. I still have the conversation saved as evidence, and I plan to report it to the police eventually, hoping they can take action.
Story 3, Night Shift Horror, the terrifying secret beneath the school.
When I was 18, I worked part-time as a janitor at my high school during the summer. My shifts varied from 9 a.m. to midnight, depending on how much money I needed. Often, I was left alone to lock up the building after the older janitors had gone home. This was before the school installed cameras in every hallway. One night, my supervisor, Tom, left early, meaning I would finish my shift alone and lock up. He told me to text him if I needed anything, as he always did, and then he left. I enjoyed being alone since I could usually do half an hour of work and then spend the rest of my shift on my phone or leave early while still getting paid for the whole time. Before leaving, Tom asked me to move some extra chairs from the gymnasium to the basement storage room. I figured I'd do that and then head home. I grabbed a stack of 6 chairs and carried them down to the basement, which had dim lighting and felt more like a warehouse than a school. The storage room was filled with art supplies and covered mannequins. I dropped the chairs where the others were stored and went back up to get more. When I returned, I noticed one of the mannequins was uncovered. I knew it had been covered just minutes earlier since it was one of the front ones. I texted Tom saying, "I think someone is down in the basement." He replied, asking what I meant. I explained that one of the art cloths had been moved. After a moment, he responded that no one else should be there. That's when I noticed something tucked in the corner of the storage room, covered by an art cloth and sitting outside the dim light. It was definitely moving slightly. Fear gripped me and I ran back upstairs to lock the basement door. I texted Tom again, saying someone was hiding under a cloth in the basement. He urged me to call the cops, but I insisted he come back since he had only left 10 minutes earlier. He told me to be a man and confront whoever was down there. Reluctantly, I descended to the basement again, but when I arrived, the cloth was now flat on the floor. Whoever had been hiding was gone. Suddenly, loud metallic thumps echoed from above me. I looked up to see indents forming in the large air vents above. Someone was crawling through the main vent and had stopped directly above me. I was terrified. I ran up the stairs, locked up the school, and went home. The next day, I told Tom a partial truth. I thought I saw someone in the corner, but it was gone when I went back. Thankfully, it was my last week there, so I didn't have to worry about it any longer.
If these creepy true horror stories sent shivers down your spine, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the next chilling upload. Have your own scary story? Drop it in the comments. We might feature it in a future video. Thanks for watching, and remember, the scariest things happen when you least expect it. Stay safe and stay scared.